Jet Set Radio is a truly one-of-a-kind game. I've never played anything quite like it. With a focus on anti-establishment, the game is filled to the brim with symbolism. From the horror movie-loving gang Poison Jam to the cybernetic-loving noise tanks, Jet Set is no stranger to character. I've wanted to talk about Jet Set Radio for a while now, and today I'm finally going to share what it means beyond just the graffiti and skating. Jet Set Radio has made such an impact on artists and gamers that to this day, anytime you walk past aisle 10, you still think about Allison. Jet Set Radio Future was a big part of my childhood. No other game has left such an impression as that release alongside the Xbox. From the first time you load the game into your Xbox, you're immediately introduced to the world that is Jet Set Radio, alongside one of the best soundtracks in all of gaming. This is a game about rollerblading graffiti gangs of Tokyo-to. But before you even get into the title screen, you're hit with a disclaimer. But this isn't like all of those piracy warnings when you watch a movie. The very first thing you read is, graffiti is art. However, graffiti as an act of vandalism is a crime. Jet Set Radio is a relatively simple game when you look at its gameplay. Skate around and collect things like graffiti souls while tagging over rival gangs' graffiti. But Masayoshi Kikuchi's game design was unlike anything the world had seen before. Working with the young Ryuta Ueda and Hideki Naganuma, just to name a few, they were able to completely capture the rebellious nature and expression of the artists of the time. One of Jet Set Radio's core concepts is rebellion. Every character you meet in Jet Set are completely unique, but one thing holds true across all of the gangs. They all hate the establishment. From the game's graffiti that you throw over rivals' tags to the ongoing battle between the GGs and the Rokaku. The mega corporation that's trying to take over Tokyo-to in hopes to silence them, turning Tokyo-to into a police state. This ongoing battle between the Rokaku and Rudies is spearheaded by Hayashi, the blue-collared, white-haired leader of Tokyo-to's police force. He's the embodiment of the establishment, constantly trying to take down the GGs in hope of silencing their freedom of speech and expression by taking over their territory by force. The corrupt Rokaku are constantly using everything at their disposal to try and eliminate them. They'll call in SWAT teams, helicopters, and even bust out the tanks when things aren't going their way. Jet Set Radio is filled to the brim with these different messages. The entire story revolves around this back and forth of a government that is trying to silence their expression and the GGs who are fighting to keep that right for the people. When I was younger, I never grasped what about this game was so fascinating to me. But as I've gotten older, I started to realize just how influential Jet Set was on me. And looking at the people who still create art and music in the community, I'm sure I wasn't alone. Jet Set is the rebellious culture, and the community mirrors that of the game's story. For many artists, there is a need to rebel. For some, that's by creating artwork that evokes an emotion on the side of a building, or creating art that depicts things people don't often talk about. As I've gotten older and gained more experience to the point of calling myself an artist, I realized just how much of an impact Jet Set had on me. Art isn't a black and white thing. There's always new things to explore and different messages that can be talked about. Jet Set Radio's against the evil corporations, and I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of artists hold the same sentiment. Whether that's selling their art in a convention center or making commissions, there's something completely different working with an artist over buying a piece of art in a shop. As an artist, your style comes from your failures and your passion to do something that hasn't been done before, just like that team Kikuchi led back in 2002. I know personally, my style was heavily inspired by things like the 80s, skating, and gaming as a whole. I lean more towards color-centric art through a focus on color theory and urban representations in my artwork. I've explored cities looking for street art, and climbed buildings to get photos of the life of a city after dark. Every artist's style is inspired by others. Banksy, the world-famous graffiti artist, was inspired by similar French graffiti artists back in the day. Jet Set Radio puts a focus on self-expression and art. The GGs are fighting to keep that expression from being taken away by a corrupt force. A game with such a strong focus on self-expression is bound to gather a community of people who also hold the same intense passion to express themselves. To this day, there is still fan art being made by incredibly talented artists in the same vein as this game. Expression isn't just creating things though. We express ourselves every day in our decisions. What color car you drive or what you decide to wear that day are just a few examples of the day-to-day expression. Jet Set Radio's designers were inspired by things like Lupin III, Tekken Concrete, and the trip-hop music at the time. These inspirations all played a role in the creation of the world of Jet Set Radio. You can make parallels of the anti-establishment nature of the game with Tekken Concrete's theme of an orphan street kid and the GG's goal of keeping the Rikaku from taking away their rights. Jet Set Radio wears its inspirations on its sleeve. It's not a game that's afraid to show who inspired their work. Instead, they embrace it, throughout with different homages to those creators. But nothing can match the inspiration that Jet Set Radio has given to the world with their music. Hideki Naganuma led the team for Jet Set Radio and Future's music, and to this day I stand by this game's soundtrack as being one of the most iconic and unique soundtracks in all of gaming. Hideki Naganuma was inspired by the big beat style of music that was popular at the time. The music is unlike anything else I'd heard at the time. It was a complete experience of electronic beats with a funky twist. When you load up Jet Set Radio Future, right after that graffiti warning, you're met with this. See, Jet Set Radio, as much of a punk and rebellious-centric game as it is, still holds a tone that goes alongside the entirety of art and its gameplay. While the concept of love is a complete banger of a song, the lyrics of it goes ahead and paints the picture of what the GGs represent: compassion. Jet Set Radio's characters are fighting for the right to voice themselves however they please. Their beef with the Rikaku trying to take away that right is what Jet Set is all about. When asking Sega about making a new Jet Set Radio, Hosokawa, one of the game's original designers, was told this: "If someone were to create a new Jet, it's going to have to be young daredevils like you guys were back then." Jet Set Radio's team back in the day were a bunch of young developers who had little experience on how something like Jet Set Radio could be made. Nothing like it had been done before. Jet Set Radio is so unique because, by conventional standards, the game doesn't fit the normal flow that a developer who has experience could see. The team was passionate about making something unique that people hadn't played before. They were focused on creating something with that same compassion that the GGs have for art. Jet Set Radio is a game made by developers who are willing to put themselves out there and do things differently from what everyone else was doing at the time. From the music, characters, and the story, everything about Jet Set is about putting yourself out there and fighting for what's right. It's a game for those who appreciate and understand how important it is to express yourself, and that's why it's loved by so many. Jet Set Radio's community of artists are inspired by these feelings of loving one another for who they are and the art they make. That raw passion for expressing what the developers at the time were into and putting it all into this game is the reason so many are inspired by Jet Set Radio. And that's why so many people are still humming the bass line today. I had an absolute blast getting to make this video. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch this and sharing it with those that you think would enjoy it. If you did like the video, make sure to comment, subscribe, let me know what you thought about it. And as always, I hope you have a good one. Peace.